What's the most NSFW situation you've been involved in at work? I've successfully masturbated at every job I've held. I work at a hospital, so I can't count how many naked people I seen. But once this super hot girl in her 20s asked me to help her put on a second robe as she was recovering from a shoulder injury. She didn't give two flying ducks that I could see everything. Just casually disrobed and I helped her with the fresh ones. She thanked me and I went on my way. I was very professional, but damn that ass. Reading NSFW AskReddit threads. I like to live life on the edge. Getting a hand job in the break room. Oh. Don't date your co-workers BTW. Started working in nightclubs as soon as I hit 18. Boy, did that teach me a thing or two. Some examples off the top of my head that I've walked in on. Multiple instances of people fingering each other in plain view. Like, did you lose your watch in there? How badly do you need to see the time really? Walked in on many people having sex who have snuck into the staff rooms, green rooms, coat rooms etc. The most impressive time was when someone managed to get into the kitchen at the restaurant upstairs. Everything was locked and nothing was broken. A mystery to this day. Catching male strippers having an all-out orgy in the disabled toilets with various bridal parties. They invited me to join, but I politely declined and was tipped around $200 to lock the door behind me. All the sugar. Just all of it. So many fights that just spill out. First rule. Get all the glassware and potential weapons off the bar. A massive fight between 25 and 30 guys which spilled out into the parking lot out back. Guards were stretched thin. Glass flying everywhere. The owner even jumped in to put someone in a stranglehold. I remember taking down one guy and then narrowly dodging a kick to the head by his friend before a security guard just appeared out of nowhere, flew over my head and tackled him. Any themed nights turn out for the worse if you're staff. Don't care if it's an Asian night, student night, gay night. I've seen everything. Walking in on a variety of drug deals. Eventually you just get to know the local dealers by name. Stuff that I've personally done at work though, as a bar manager at the time. Told my bartenders that I was going into the office for half an hour as we were closing down. In reality, I ended up hooking up with some girl I had met earlier in the parking lot. Just so many people have handed me drugs as a tip. Like I have no idea why, but they just do. Had sex over a screaming crowd above the DJ and the stage in the sound booth. Because I got dared to. My favorite story is probably when I accidentally got high while meeting Zibbit. Super chill guy. But I've never done weed before at that point and his green room was, well, green. That time I bought sugar for my manager. So I ended up leaving work midway, driving half an hour to get the drugs. Then the dealer making me do a key with him. And then going back to work high as balls. And partying with my manager as soon as work finished. These are just off the top of my head. So all I can say is, bro, nightclubs, shrug, edit, formatting. I'm in the military, and it's mandatory that wear a reflective belt during the hours of darkness. But there was this one time that I didn't do it. Probably the most NSFW thing I've ever done. I still get scared whenever I think about it. I once had a woman dancing naked in front of me. Her massive tits bouncing all over the place, wanting me to come get her. Unfortunately she was in her 80s, riddled with Alzheimer's and being dragged away by her carers. But I guess it's still kind of NSFW. I'm a sound engineer and do theater work every now and then. Theater work involves seeing and being in contact with a lot of minimally clothed people. The funniest, most NSFW was when I was micing up a very attractive young lady, early 20s. Now, mics for theater can be in a variety of places from heads to hats, hair, faces or clothes etc. This particular girl had a mic hidden in her hair. The cable goes down their back and into a transmitter in a pouch around the waist, or clipped onto their bra. So I asked the girl to lift the back of her dress so I could put the mic transmitter into her pouch. She misheard me and took the dress completely off, revealing her incredibly minimal undergarments. I kept doing my job and got the mic in place and whatnot, and then said, you know, I didn't ask you to take that right off, right? She just looked at me cheekily, smiled and said, oh well. I work in a call center. Rows and rows of people. No privacy. I mindlessly browse Reddit while I'm at work. I rarely read titles before just ducking clicking away. The little red NSFW does not ducking help me. One time it was slow and I clicked a link from WTF. It was a giant gif of a woman fist ducking another woman to the point where you can see her whole goddamn hand under the other lady's skin. Then my computer froze. It was the most terrifying 10 seconds of my life and I scrambled to get my computer shut off. Everything's recorded. All phone calls and computer activity. I panic. They did ask me about a week later why I logged out of my phone outside of my breaks and restarted my computer. And I just was like, oh, it froze, all while thinking because I accidentally clicked a very vulgar porn scene. Okay, just let one of us know next time you have computer issues. God, that was a close one. Between 07 and 10 I worked as a basic security guard. Various clients' contracts, but the longest one was for the local hospital. I had the run of the whole building. We had an office section that was closed after hours. I'd take girls into the dark, empty offices to do the nasty. So many desks and chairs were used. No one ever found out. Emergency nurses are wild. By the way, I had sex with a co-worker in the office after hours. I worked on a college campus. We were dating. They let us stay into lockup a few times a week because we were taking night classes after work. What did they expect? Also, when I worked security, there was a coffee shop girl that used to always bring me free drinks and bread at the end of her shift. It took my dumbers a long time to realize what was happening, and when I did it was pretty great. I worked until midnight, and this was a ritzy place. So most everyone was gone by 6 PM. And they didn't have cameras because they felt it ruined the look of the place. What this meant was when she got off a little after 9, we had 3 hours to kill. And security is a boring job. On the other end of NSFW, I have had knives pulled on me a bunch. And wrestled a dude to the ground, fell on top of him. And had something hit me in the ribs. Only to later find out that he had a .22 in his backpack that I had fallen on when we went to the ground. Had a guy come at me jabbing a syringe at me. It had the cap on though, so when it hit me I throat punched him. Still had to get tested though, and that was ducking scary. One time at that college job we were moving furniture from one office to the other in this ducked up pickup truck the campus was going to throw away. So we stole the keys and went off-roading in it and ducked that itch up. Man, I need to get out and have some fun again. I have been far too dormant lately. I changed a light bulb without calling our office maintenance man. I was told you are very lucky to not be getting an official warning for this. You put yourself in great danger from electric shock. What I learned from all of this: everything I touch out in public or at work has probably been used for sex. Thanks everyone. I ducked a co-worker in the supply closet. We had gotten flirty a few weeks before, then kissed after a drunken office party like 3 nights before we did this. I went by her cube and jokingly asked her if she wanted to go do it in the closet, and she very seriously said yes. I went back to the closet first and then she came and tapped on the door. I let her in and we kissed and then ducked standing up. I really wanted to take my time but realized in the middle of it how crazy it was and finished up. She came to my act a few times after that, but then it started to get weird. She was married and started to want to leave her husband for me. I just wanted to bang in the closet. Ducking hell. I don't want to work with any of you masturbators. I work at a hospital. Went to transport a 16-year-old girl who came into the ER vomiting after going to a concert at the local venue. She was quite intoxicated. All I was told by the nurse was that she's going to ask you not to call her mom. I don't deal with that stuff anyways. Walked into the room to see her boyfriend making out with her semi-passed out vomit-filled mouth. He looked up at me and just goes, "It's probably time to go, isn't it?" I just shook my head and he casually walked out wiping his mouth. Nothing really crazy, but that's the best I got. You know when you're watching anime and the MC turns around and slams face first into a hot girl's lips and one hand ends up on her tit and the other hand ends up on her ass? That happens IRL too. I used to work for a tow truck company as a battery tire guy that would drive vans out and provide jump starts, tire changes, What have you? One of the first jobs I did solo, I was changing a tire for a group of women leaving a bar and were about to go out to the next venue. The whole damn time they were grabbing my ass as I was working and saying all sorts of suggestive it to me. I was a 17-year-old kid though, it didn't bother me. Worked at a small hotel. F'd my girlfriend in like 30 of the 40 rooms. Some kid once pooped in a Ziploc bag and threw it into the conference room with it still open. My co-worker and I were rearranging server racks in a server room with elevated floors. This means that the floor is made up of movable tiles about a foot above the actual ground. The edges of the tiles and the frames that support them are incredibly sharp. Anyway, my buddy lifts a tile and moves it aside. He then steps into the hole he just created, slamming his shin into the frame's sharp edge, which managed to bludgeon open his leg without cutting his jeans. There was lots of blood. It was not safe for work. I once had a drunk man stumble into my restaurant and head straight for our bathrooms. It was 10 PM on a Monday and we had closed, but I needed to get this drunk methodica out. I had to go into the men's room and ask if he was okay and could he leave. I get in there and there's black vomit everywhere. The floor, the walls, everything. He has decided I'm his wife and is calling me Shirley and telling me all about how much of a miserable itch I am. I ask for his address to call him a taxi. He gives me a phone number instead. So that ends up being his wife, who says I told him I don't pick him up after 6 PM. Great. Get their address and order him a taxi. So now I have to go pull this guy out of the toilets. I open the door a crack and ask him if he's able to come out and make sure he's not peeing as conscious. This dude storms out with his pants round his ankles, refusing to pull his pants up. His saggy old man balls and dad brandy just flapping about. After much debate, I have to pull his stinky pissed and vomited on Y fronts and pants up for him, bundle him into a taxi and send him home. Turns out his wife purposefully gave me the wrong address. BC, she hates him and he was too drunk to remember where he lived. Much fun. TL. DR. Drunk old man bodily fluid coated saggy balls in my face in my restaurant. I had a cig break, so went out with a friend who came to stop by. Left my cigarettes inside so I have a bit of his. He always uses roaches instead of filters, so I didn't bat an eye until I stopped feeling weird. Turns out I had just smoked half a joint before the Saturday rush. Worst shift of my life. Started sketching out thinking everyone knew I was high. Thought I got away with it until the other day my manager said, hey, remember that Saturday Watermelons 99 turned up to work high as it? I had keys to the office I used to work at. My girlfriend and I went after hours many times to bang in various spots around the office, including, but not limited to, conference room desk, boss's desk, my desk and lobby. I also still have the key to that office and I still go after hours many times with that same girlfriend to bang in various places around that office. I also have jerked off at every job I've ever had, at both my own desks and in the bathrooms. There was also one time when at that last job, my boss's 19-year-old college student daughter came into my office to show me her new tattoo, which was located in an area that would be concealable by a bikini bottom. When she pulled her panties and jeans out to show me, I could see that she was cleanly shaven as well as the top of her labia. That's at the top of my spank bank highlight reel even today. I of course never made a move on her because she was my boss's daughter. Plus she was out of my league, and I have a girlfriend whom I love. But damn it, that doesn't mean I can't fantasize about boss's daughter from time to time. I worked with mentally disabled individuals for quite a while and ended up being part of a crisis response team. I got a call at 3 AM that I needed to go help out at one of our houses and to hurry. I got there as quick as I could and walked into the house to be assaulted by the fresh stench of fecal matter wafting through the air. The staff hesitantly pointed to the client's room. I opened the door and was greeted by a sight that would make Gigi Allen proud. Our client was smeared in it. There were murals of brown on all 4 walls. And he was crouched on his bed like Gollum, muttering furiously while wiping his ass to use it as lubricant while he masturbated. Not sure I'll ever forget that. I work at a gas station. When gas truck was unloading petrol, the hose nozzle caught fire and there was a minor explosion, or like a fireball everywhere, without a really audible bang. Luckily we put it all out before anyone died in a fire. I climbed in the cardboard compactor once to jimmy some boxes loose. Not safe at all. I just have lots of sexual innuendos. Being followed around by a manager holding 2 melons in front of his chest, asking me if I liked his melons, because he liked mine. Cleaning the massive drain in the warehouse. Deputy manager came up and asked if I was having fun. Said yes sarcastically. He said of course I'm having fun. I love being filthy. Standing on top of the display table to hang displays and having the new manager ask if I'm used to climbing on top of tables for a living. Nothing risque. Just a bit cheeky. I used to work at a Papa John's in high school. We used to do so many bad things. We'd get drunk and make pizza, hotbox the walk-in freezer, smoke blunts out back on our breaks, and I used to have sex with my manager in his office. Honestly, working there was like a party all the time except I had to make pizzas every once in a while. The best was getting fired. Yup, all I was thinking about while the D-bag fired me was how I had banged my GF in his chair after hours one night, a week before. He made me work late that night knowing I had plans with her, pushing my week to 55 hours, and didn't pay me overtime. They wondered why I had a bad attitude. He sat in my cum. Just a typical wait for the boss to get inside his room and let's make a quickie. Nothing too shabby. Got accused of being some creepy ass pervert, taking videos of other staff with my phone. I was just texting mates. It was so full of herself. I worked late once and ducked the cleaning lady. Got fired the next day. Had I'd known that kind of thing was frowned upon, I probably wouldn't have done it. Had sex in multiple places in a movie theater, the roof, the projection booth, the break room, theater number 15. I've stood on the part of a stepladder that says not a step. Pretty NSFW. My boss let me know that I should delete the 12 gigabytes of porn he downloaded on my computer after I missed a day. After he transferred it to his flash drive of course. I used to be a writer at a pornographic magazine. So I was excited about telling some of my in the field stories until I realized that technically all the I did was very much SF my particular line of W. Sad. I had an employer ask me to sleep with him in the back room. I said no, and he fired me later that day. I suppose that was the most NSFW situation I have been involved in at my own job. I really needed the job too. They paid me out in cash, so there was no record of my employment. Having sex on the husband's desk at his former work is probably the most NSFW situation I have been involved in at his work. A female co-worker and I took a male co-worker into a private room and closed the door. Then he took his shirt off and we had our hands all over his chest. And that's how I trained her to perform an electrocardiogram. I got two. The funny one happened while working at a web hosting company. One of our customers hosts a granny porn site. Parts of their site were working, but other parts were not. So we're going through the issue trying to figure out what the common link was between the pages that aren't working. At the top were some tags anal, threesome, interracial etc. Each of these took you to a different site within the family of granny porn sites. So here I am saying yeah, the anal and interracial sites aren't working, but the lesbian and bondage sites work fine. My co-workers, as we all behave like immature 14-year-olds when we're really immature 24-year-olds, were all cracking up, which was making it even harder for me to be serious. The less funny one, I used to work for a tiny startup with minuscule office space. One night I decided I wanted to duck my GF from my boss's desk. So we went out to dinner like 2 minutes from the office, then dropped into the office hours after everyone had left. We banged on his desk and chair, then did a quick cleanup job in the bathroom and headed home. Bonus situation. When I was younger I mowed lawns. I looked in through the window really quick and saw a dude furiously masturbating. I ignore it, move a few feet to the side, so there isn't that direct line of sight to him, and started the mower. I go away from the window to start. On my way back the blinds were down. That guy probably thinks he got away with it. I think it's better that he believes that. I work in mental health, so I've seen a lot of shady disgusting it over the years. I was caring for a lady with early onset dementia who had a habit of eating many non-edible things. She had just woken up from a nap and wandered from her room. I noticed that her hands were covered in blood, so I rushed over to assess where the blood was from. I quickly realized that she wasn't injured, but was mensurating and often played with herself. So this was the source of the blood. I cleaned her up and changed her diaper. She was also incontinent, and took her to the TV room. We were sitting on the sofa together when she began rocking back and forth and moaning. I leaned toward her to see if she was alright, when she suddenly threw up all over my lap. I looked down to see bloody vomit with chunks of gelatin diaper filling dribbling down my legs. While she was in her room, she had picked apart the inside lining of her piss and blood filled diaper and ate it. That smell will stay with me for the rest of my life. Doing blow with my manager, general manager of a country club I worked at a while back. We were in his office during a busy night. When we walked out of his office right into the kitchen where everyone was working, he started saying stuff like, "And make sure you don't do that again," trying to play it off like he was in there scolding me over something. Good times. I have fun all the time. One time I made a bridge for a scissor lift to get over some fresh cement, making a quick 3-rung ladder, crawling on top of ductwork and Stop and Shop, having scissor lift races. I ducked my colleague in the server room, and the quiet room, the bathroom and the storage room. Oh, and she gave me a blowjob in the stairwell. I would climb up 40 feet ladders without someone at the bottom holding the ladder. As pizza boy during school, a hot girl in lingerie opened the door. Sadly, this was real life and not a porno. She didn't thought I would arrive before her boyfriend. My son was conceived at work. I work at a Hilton on a huge spring break beach in FL. The amount of times women staying there let me just come in while they are topless while delivering room service. Couple times I have gone upstairs and they have left their toys out. Just keep it professional while you have the company logo on you. Having a leg cramp in the deep end of the pool and almost drowning. That was fun. Some asshole pretended to be me on Facebook and propositioned to my boss. Almost got me fired. That would probably be 6 with the fitness instructor at the on-site gym facility. She was cute and I was freshly divorced. At my workplace they had these rooms for new moms to breastfeed their babies. Each room had a lock on the door, a love seat, and soundproofing so mothers could calm upset babies. Well, as you might guess, they were used more for intimate work-related escapades. We'd sneak off to have sex after almost all of my workouts. My friends were in awe at my dedication to hitting the gym 5 days a week. I fell off a ladder once. I have a hard time believing half of these ducking stories. My girlfriend, who also worked at the business, and I had sex in the stockroom after the place closed for the night on multiple different occasions. Shooting up in the bathroom. Typed brazzers into Google image search in front of my supervisor because I wanted to show him and another co-worker one of these funny brazzers memes. I used a pallet on a forklift as a lift. I didn't even wear a hard hat. When I worked door to door, one person was sat on their sofa. They must have weighed at least 600 pounds. They took up an entire 3-seat sofa, and they had one of those big gown things on. Legs spread so you could see everything, and curtains wide open. As I walked up a drive to knock on the door, I saw that, almost threw up and went home.